In this video, I'm gonna talk about context. What is context in React? Context is a cross-component store that avoid forwarding data. What is forwarding? Is when you pass information from one component to another component, and finally to a different component, and that information is going to be used in the final component. In this case, I have this example. And for example, this component would be grabbing component 2, okay? And it would be sending information about books through the properties, okay? Now, the component 2 is getting the information from component 1, and it is grabbing the component 3, and it would send information about books using prop. And finally, the component 3 would use this information. A function can be a function or data. This is not a good approach because you are passing information through different components, and only one component is going to use that information or function. Okay, if you would have a more complex application with more components, you are going to have a complex way um, to manage this information, passing um, information through components. This would be valid only if you have only just the parent and the child component. Okay, because it is going to send information and is going to use the information. That would be a good approach, but not in the case when you have more than two components. Now, what would be a better approach? Okay, using context, and we're going to be able to centralize, store for variables, and objects and functions. And this way, the information is going to be available for all components. If a specific component needs that information, that's going to be available, and that's not going to be jumping through different components. Okay, now let's see my application. Okay, it's this, and this application represents a manage for a list of books. Okay, it's a kind of CRUD that can get information from books. It can store a new book or delete a specific book. Okay, now let's see how this application looks like. Okay, let's change here. Here. Okay, let me get into the form, into the component. This is the composition. It has different elements, different components. This is the component that sends or create a new book. This is the another component. This is the book list that have the information of all those books I have stored in the database. In this case, I have 2 books, and this is a delete button that remove a specific book. Okay, let's try to do something here. Okay, I'm going to try to create a new book. I'm going to set title as title 1, and I'm going to set the ISBN code, and it has a little validation that verify that all the information is correct. Now I'm going to save a book, and it was created. Okay, I'm going to delete the same book, and of course it works. Perfect. Now let's check the app component. that has all the compositions for the window we were we were watching. And let's check the main elements in this component. Okay, I have the this is the book object. It is using a use state hook that store the information of the books, the list of books we're watching here. Okay, is stored in that object. Now, let's check important elements. Okay, this URL, it has the URL of the backend. This use effect, this is another hook, is executed at the beginning when I start the application. I run the application, and it gets the list of books. It is calling this function here. This function gets the information of all the books, and it sets that information in the variable we were watching here. Okay, let me close here. I have a add book handler. This function takes the information that we set in this component, and it sends the information to the database. It stores the information to the database. And let me check add book handler. And finally, we have the delete book handler that deletes a specific book, and it receives the ID. Okay, now let me close this and this. Now let's check the return um, sentence of the component. We have different elements here. This corresponds to the root and the component that we are going uh, to display according to the root. And this is the okay. This is a div that grab the most important components for this activity. The save book form. This component is what we see here, and the book list component that um, is at the bottom. It has the list of books. Okay. Now I want to make a change in this program. Okay. I want to remove this component from this view. Okay, because the composition is too complex. I want to have only the list of the book, and I would like to have a link here to add or to a link that takes me to this component. Okay, now if I want to do that, first I would have to remove this component, the save book form component from from this line. Okay, pay attention about something. This component is receiving the add book handler. Okay, this is the add book handler. This is the method that gets the information of a book, and it sends that information to the backend. Okay, now I'm going to comment this line of code, and I'm going to save it. Let's see what's happening. Okay, now we have only the list of books. Okay, now I want to have a link here, this part, that takes me to this form. And now I'm going to go to the book list component, and I'm going to add a new line to establish that link. Okay, this is a link. It's a component that is going to redirect to the save book form. Okay, let me check what's happening. Okay, we have the this link here. If I click here, okay, I'm in the component to add a new book, but I did part of the job because I need to pass this method add book handler to that component. Okay, but but I'm not sending or not using the same way in this case. Okay, because I'm using the method, I'm using the component, and I'm sending the method to add a book handler directly to the component. But in this case, it is not possible. Okay, because I'm using um, a different way. Okay, I'm using a link. So how am I going to pass that method to that component? Okay, here we can use the context. Okay, I created a folder to store the book context. I create this context, and we are going to use this context to store uh, the method that we are going to send to the save book form. Okay, and uh, let's check the elements for this context. First, we need the import to the React namespace, and then we're going to create a kind of a component. Okay, the name is book context, which is going to be the name of the context, and we're going to use the React namespace, and the function create context is going to receive, to get an object, and this object is going to store all the elements we want to store in this context. Okay, we can store a variable, we can store a function, or we can store an object. Okay, in the case to store a specific value, we can do this. Okay, my value or my object, you can store an object here. Okay, something like this, maybe. Or in this case, okay, I'm going to store only one element. It is going to be a function. Okay, now I have the key. This is the key. Save book is the name, and we are going to set an empty function. Okay, I'm going to save this, and it is ready. Okay, and I need to export this name. Okay, to be able to import that context to the different components. Now let's back here. Now we have our context. Now everything is ready here. We need to make this context available for all the components we need. And in this case, we are going to do this. I'm going to uncomment these lines, and we're going to use the book context. And I can do this because I imported the book context from the root where it is located. And now I have to use dot and provider to specify the value for the object that is stored in the context. Okay, in this case, we are going to repeat the same object, but the difference is that we are going to store in the save book key the method add book handler. Okay, and in this case is going to be able for in the context to be used for all the components that are grabbed by the book context tag. Now it needs to be closed because this is a tag, and I have this tag created here. I'm going to uncomment, and I'm going to save this change. Okay, perfect. And now it is going to be able to the save book form. Okay, in the past, well, let me check the elements of this, the main elements of this form, this component. Sorry. Let's see. Okay, this is the form. It represents this component, what we are seeing here, and we see the form submit, and this is attached, is linked to the save book handler method. Okay, this save book handler method is going to store the information that we set in the different text boxes in this form. Okay, information here in the title and the ISBN. As you can see here, we have the label ISBN and the title, and finally we have the button that submit the information in this form. Okay, let's check the save book handler. It gets the information, and it does first the prevent default. It prevents to make a request directly to the backend, because we're going to do that in the app method. It's going to be done by this function. It's back. Okay, here is going to validate some values. It's going to validate the title. It's going to validate the ISBN value, and it's going to check if the form is complete. That's the functionality that makes this. Okay, and finally, it is going to call the save book method function that is going to send information to the app component. Now it's back here, and now we can't use the props, okay, because that's not available. We're not sending the method, the function, using props. We are going to use context. How we can use the context in a specific form? In this way, declaring a variable and using the function use context. Okay, it needs to be imported in a line, in a importing statement, and we are going to specify what is the context we are going to use. Okay, and we have to import the context in the same way. Now, because we have the context, now we can call the elements inside that context. Okay, in this case, I'm going to change props to book context. Okay, variable we declare, and we are going to call save book. And as you can see, save book is here, but now it is not going to be an empty function because we are setting the function here, and it happens when the application runs, okay, because this is the main component and it runs at the beginning. Now I guess we have everything is ready, okay, everything is safe. And now I'm going to move back. I'm going to add a new book. I'm going to set the title new, and I'm going to set the ISBN. It is verifying that the length of this value is correct, and all the values in the form are correct. Now I'm going to save the book, and let's check. Okay, title new. Now it is using the function that is in the context, and it is not passing the method using forwarding. Okay, that would be a good idea to change the behavior. In this case, for the delete book handler, because it is passing from the book list to the book, from the book list to the book item. Okay, that is here, and that would be a good change to do in this application. In the same way, I would send this delete book handler. I would pass this delete book handler to the context that would be here, and it is going to be used in the book item, not using forwarding, but we can use the context, okay, because it is passing from one component to two different components.